It's summer, and you know what that means. Summer hours. Okay, so summer is probably not the best time to be productive, but I think it's a good time to think about productivity. There's been a lot of talk lately about the 4-day work week. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And it seems as though there are just as many studies out that say that it's a great thing and really good for productivity as there are studies that say that it's really terrible and nothing gets done. And I think there's a reason for that. I think it really is dependent on the type of company, both the industry, but also just the company itself, the people involved. Because here's the thing, productivity, first of all, how do we define it? Ask 10 different people, you're going to have 10 different answers on what productivity actually means. And then how do you measure it? Is it by how many items you can check off on a list, or is it the value that you put to a certain task? I mean, how do we define a productive day? Usually it's just, I felt like I got a lot done. What does that mean? Again, is it checking things off a box, or is it moving the needle? What is it? It's different for everyone, and it's different every day. Usually some days you feel productive when you check a lot of things off. Some days you feel productive because you feel like you actually did something important, right? So there's no one measure for productivity. There's no one definition of productivity. So how can we say that a 4-day week is productive or not? The only way that we can say a 4-day work week works is if what needs to get done at a certain time is getting done by a certain time, right? 8 hours of work seemed a lot better than 12 to 14 hours of work. So there you go. 8 hours to work, 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to rest, play, whatever. It came with the Industrial Revolution, but that's just it. The 8-hour workday is arbitrary. So there are also studies that say that within an 8-hour day, people will fill up those 8 hours, even if it's not necessary. But then there are just as many people who can't get all of their work done within a 40-hour week, or even a 50 or 60-hour week. They're still working nights and weekends, right? But look at what needs to get done. And then go backwards. Say, this is what needs to get done over the course of a week. If I only had 30 hours to get this done, how would I do it? And sometimes it means hiring more people or investing in some computer programs that can take some of the work off of the employees, make things run more efficiently, faster, quicker, more accurately. Whenever you put constraints on something, you come up with creative ideas. That's where creativity comes from, by having these limitations, right? So if you're a painter and you take a canvas, you've now put a constraint. So what you're trying to communicate now needs to fit onto this canvas. You've now put a limitation on the message you're trying to convey, right? Same thing in the business world. If you say, I have 30 hours to get all of this work done, you've got to be creative to find ways to get that done. Now, I spent years working with cruise lines where there was always more work to be done than needed to be done. But because of the nature of the work, it couldn't just roll over to next week because that would be too late. So lots of nights, lots of weekends, working constantly to get the work done. So I gave up nights, weekends, sleep, holidays, vacations in order to get the workload done. But what if business leaders could say, same amount of work needs to get done in 30 hours a week so that my employees have time to rest, recover, recuperate, all of which makes someone a better employee. How would it happen? How could you get the same amount of work done in 30 hours? And that requires a mindset that's based on efficiency. Now, that's not just about just getting more things done in less time, but it's also figuring out what actually needs to be done. So a lot of businesses are very busy doing things that don't matter to the company, don't matter to the customers, don't matter to the employees. Yet, because it's always been done that way, they're going to keep doing it that way. but it's really just wasting time. So an organization really needs to look at the entire workload. What is actually contributing to results? So this is really a process analysis of not just, is this individual process efficient, but are all of the processes put together? What does that look like? Are there processes that just don't need to be done at all? And the ones that do need to be done, are they running in the most efficient way? Which usually means starting backwards. What result do you want? And then move backwards from there, figuring out the fastest, most efficient, most effective way to get that result. And then getting rid of everything in between. Now, there are companies that are already doing this, that are more results-based rather than hours spent at the office base. But there is a slippery slope here. So there will always be work to be done, right? You never leave the office feeling like, oh, that's it, I'm done forever. You're done for the day, but not forever. And you probably wouldn't want that, because then there would be no reason for you to go to work the next day, for them to pay you to go to work the next day, right? So there will always be work to be done. So how do you measure what done is if you're results based, right? Because, hey, I can get better results possibly if I work nice weekends, holidays, skip vacations, etc. But is that the result that you want? So you have to be careful when it's result-based rather than hour-based as well, because there is a danger there of making things worse, because you're never going to get it all done. So I believe the trick is to look for processes, systems, etc., that make work more efficient. Get rid of the things that don't need to be done within that process. Get rid of processes that just don't need to be there at all. But also keep a lid on how many hours an employee can work. Because part of being productive also means being able to have time to rest and recover. This makes one actually a better employee. So putting the priority on both results within a limited number of hours per week, but then also placing a priority on rest of recovery, because that is going to make your employees better. It's going to make your organization better. The studies of the 4-day work week that said that it was a good thing, they show that in those organizations, people were more willing to be focused during that 4-day work week because they knew they had an extra day to take care of personal things. They were able to clear their schedules, clear their minds of anything but work-related things when they were at work. So there's something to be said for that. They also showed up to work more well-rested because they had a 3-day weekend every weekend. So for those 4 days, they were more rested, they could be more focused, they could get more done, they had more energy, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of books out there, a lot of programs, workshops, et cetera, on productivity. But I think the next layer in productivity is not just about getting more things done, but it's having a more holistic, and yes, I know I use this word a lot, but I believe it to be true that when you've got a holistic view of something, you've got a better perspective of something. It's the whole idea of seeing a picture of a tree or walking all the way around a tree. Which one is going to give you a better idea of what's going on? So same thing with productivity. I think if an organization looks at it more holistically, rather than just the hours somebody spends at work, but takes a look at how are people spending their entire lives? Not that you're micromanaging other people's lives and their free time, et cetera, but giving them space to have that free time and have a life outside of work makes them better when they are at work. And so having that perspective of, if you give people the opportunity and the space to rest and recover, that will make them a better employee. And all you need to do is give them that space. So I believe the next level of productivity is really that. It's that holistic view of getting more things done in less amount of time, but also giving people the space to rest and recover so that they're more productive at work. And what that means is that people in senior leadership positions need to be more creative and more innovative about how they get things done. Processes, systems, all of that. really taking a look at why are people working 50, 60, 70-hour work weeks? Why is that? Or what are the roadblocks to taking the same workload that we have and moving into a 30-hour work week? Why can't we do that? If business leaders are willing to ask themselves those types of questions, then their organization will become more productive.